Hi, I'm Matt Sweetwood, and I'm here with the infamous or famous,
I'll take either, man.
Steve Weatherford, former Giants and Jets punter for, we blinked, and
Yep.
you were a Jets punter.
Yeah, so I played, came to New York in 2009, played 2 years with the Jets. When that contract was over, went over to the other side of the town, played 4.5 years for the Giants, and then recently I was sitting in the studio at ESPN doing my radio show, and the general manager for the Jets called me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Or you happen to be in town?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, we need you to punt against the Patriots. Can you meet us in Boston?" So yeah, that was a fun experience. But New York's been good to me.
Yeah, well, I'm a New Yorker too, and it's hard. New Jerseyan, right? We're really New Jerseyans. We say New York, but
when I say I'm coming home, I'm going to Jersey.
Right. So we have a new star of the show.
This is Yoda.
Yoda.
All right, man, get out of here. You stink.
That's all right. Yoda's allowed to be in here. I have a way. I always say, dogs love me, kids love me. Women, not so much.
Well, I got a house full of women.
That's right. Exactly right. So one of the reasons why I wanted to get together, I know you had come into my store. I actually ran Unique Photo for many years, and we did something on selfies. But this is a little bit more selfless, what I really want to talk about today. And we're both dads, and it's something that really defines us in our life. And the thing that I really like is that you're obviously a well-known sports figure. You have fantastic social media. You can find him at Weatherford 5 everywhere, right? Yep. Everywhere. You're an Instagram, big Instagrammer.
Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
You're on.
Yeah, I'm on Snapchat a little bit, but that's on the back burner for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I love.
To me, my favorite is Instagram because it kind of gives. To me, it's Twitter is informational for me, and I used to be more of a producer on that than a consumer. Now I've just. If something happens, like a shooting in San Bernardino, I get on there to see
what's going on.
Whether there are any casualties, what's going on, and every once in a while I'll get on there and do some production. But for me, I go there to consume, and then Instagram is kind of the platform that I share my journey with, share my story.
And I use both. I share my journey on Instagram, but I also use Twitter. I write a lot, so you can find me at msweetwood. That's msweetwood. I'm Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and so on. I use it to promote my writing, so I blog a lot. If you go on my website, msweetwood.com, I write, and the Twitter is actually really good to communicate when you write.
You can get your article out there.
You can get your article out there, and people like to talk to you, I guess, because they're consuming like you are. Right. They're consuming your content, and then it's a good way, it's a real quick way to interact with somebody.
It's nice because it just bridges the gap between somebody who's producing the mass, something that the masses want, and then you give them something, but they might have a comment or a critique or whatever the case may be. They can get right to you. They don't have to go through your fan page.
Absolutely, and it's the new media. So I actually consider you a media platform because you have enough followers and enough people interested in what you do that you can produce relevant content sometimes that people will see more of your stuff than you can go to a major magazine. So a traditional news site.
Right.
Like you go out to the Huffington Post or even something like Time, you could actually post an Instagram and get more views on that Instagram than Time can get on an article that they post on their website.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's it's definitely been a shift in the last couple of years that a lot of the times they're having different sports celebrities or public figures write articles for their magazine or for their website, and then kind of cross-marketing, saying, okay, we'll put this on Time Magazine or Time.com. Would you mind posting it on Twitter? And then that way it just kind of takes all of the public figure's fans, funnels it to Time Magazine. So
absolutely.
It's kind of one hand is feeding the other, which is great.
Right, which is what you want to do in social media. You want to connect and you want to interact.
And I'm not, nearly as good of a blogger or writer as you are, but I write stuff for MuscleandFitness.com. I write stuff for USAtoday.com on a weekly basis. So it's something, just another avenue.
The trick is when you have platform, is to use the platform. It's to leverage the platform. And one of the messages that you leverage a lot, and which really got my interest, is that you talk a lot about being a family man. And this is not something that you see out of NFL players very often. They talk about things, and sometimes they have causes, but what I really find attractive is you're sort of like the the new Tim Tebow. I'm sure you've heard that before. But you really do it about something that we all relate to, which is fatherhood. Which to me is a really, really important subject, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. And I think for NFL players to be role models as fathers would really set a really big example in this country. Because as you know, in a lot of the communities, some of the minority communities, the father retention rate, I'll call it, is very low. There's a lot of children being born to single moms, and in that, and the fathers are running. And I think to set a role model, which I really think you do, is extremely important in the fatherhood. In the a lot of stuff with you and your kids. So when you were little, did you think that how many kids do you have?
I have 4. I have my oldest, my son Ace is 8. My daughter Carney is 6. My 3-year-old Rara, and then my youngest daughter JJ is just turned 6 months.
So you got 8, 6, and 8, 6,
8, 6, 3, and 6 months. Yeah.
So I have 5. They were no more than 7 or 8 years apart, but mine are all in their 20s. That's why my hair looks like this and your hair looks like that. But I'm a very lucky man. I'm a single dad. I raised them mostly myself, mostly on my own, and they're successful and grown up. So you're kind of you're on somewhere in the beginning of the tunnel. I'm actually out the other side of the tunnel. But being a father to me was really ended up being the most important thing that I can do in my life. Tell me. So when you were younger, did you imagine you were going to have 4 kids?
I did. You know, one of the first visions I had for my life before I dreamed of playing in the NFL or NBA, I always wanted to be a dad. It's something that, you know, when I first started dating my wife, it was one of the first things we talked about, you know, like, do you want to have a family? Do you want to have kids? Because if she would have been like, nah, I'm not into kids, I'd be like, you know, you're good looking and I like to be with you, but I'm out of here.
That's right.
Because it's something that was very important to me, and not just from a legacy standpoint, but just having a lot of admiration for great dads. I had a great dad. My dad coached me in soccer from the time I could walk, you know.
See, to me that is
all the way through 18.
You're actually making my point. So you had a dad who was a very strong role model, and that really set the role model for you being a good dad and raising kids who I'm sure are going to turn out to be really successful. And that really, to me, is one of the fundamental things that needs to be talked about more in this country, is dads as a role model.
I mean, and then, you know, I have this, you know, at 14, 15, 16 years old, I had this vision and this dream for my life, and I've been very blessed to marry a woman who wanted the same thing. I wouldn't have married her if she didn't have the same vision that I did, because you don't marry somebody wanting to change something about them. So we were definitely on the same page, but we've been very blessed that, you know, physically we've been able to procreate. And so I was saying that's one of the reasons that I kind of felt the responsibility to, you know, be as transparent as possible on social media, because it bothers me when I'm following other pro athletes and, you know, all they do is post about, you know, the luxury cars and the lifestyles, and I'm like, you know what, there's so much more to life, and the reality is 99% of the people that are following you can't afford those things, will never have those things, and so it's almost kind of like you're throwing it in their face. Look what I have that you'll never have.
And there's even a bigger point, is that when they leave the NFL, are they going to still have those things if they try to have those things?
A lot of them won't, and so it's kind of like you're misrepresenting what life is all about. It's not about things.
And football players, NFL players,
relationships.
Right? And NFL players are role models. No matter, you know, that gets bandied about a lot, but there's no doubt a lot of young people look up to you guys to really, you know, set the example. And when they're doing that, it's not real life, as you point out.
No, and it's, you know, it's the things in life. You know, I feel like there's 2 forms of happiness in life. There's framework happiness, and then there's instantaneous happiness. Like, you're going to get happy and euphoria from eating food, from having sex, from buying a new watch, getting a new car, but those things will fade eventually. Framework happiness is happiness that you get from selflessness and self-sacrifice and hard work.
And charity of the heart.
So
I always say that I'm possession adverse. I actually shun possessions because they actually don't provide you with any kind of happiness at all. They don't.
No.
There's no substance. It's about your family. It's about the people you love, the experiences you have. Do you find, you know, obviously you're out in the world outside the NFL, do you find that NFL players are better parents or not as good parents, or is it really just the same as it is out there?
I feel like on the whole, we're not as good parents, and the reason is, and a lot of people won't realize this, but in order to be the best in the world at something, you have to either innately be self-centered and selfish, or you have to become that way. Perfect example, when I come home from, training camp or, a long day at practice, and I come home and my body needs to sleep, or my body needs a massage or acupuncture, I have to put that before my family, and that's something that I struggled with my entire career. And it's one of the reasons I left the NFL probably before my time.
Right, you still can play. You can play right now.
Yeah, so I played for 10 years, and I was so blessed to do it. And I made financially enough money to be able to say, you know what, this isn't my passion. My passion is my kids. And there's still other things. It's not like I retired just to be a dad.
I understand.
But I retired to be able to do the things with my children and my wife that I haven't been able to do essentially for their entire life. And so it's kind of weird. I was on the gym earlier today, on the way to the gym with my two youngest and my wife, and my 3-year-old from the back goes, "Hey Dad, when you get a job, can we go to Disneyland?" And I'm like, I'm doing TV. I've got my own TV show on Spike, but she thinks for me the only real job that I can have is kicking a football and playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And life is so much bigger than that. But it's been a journey, and I have no regrets with taking the avenue that I've taken. Now in 6 months, I might get the itch to go back and play, and I think I'll have the opportunity to do it. But right now, I'm so happy.
Right, and you're able to focus and enjoy your children. They're at an age, where you can really, really be a part of it. I think it's really interesting. So you're sort of suggesting that the NFL lifestyle forces you to be very inwardly focused. And really a tenet of fatherhood is to be outwardly focused, to really be selfless.
Be selfless. And when you're a pro athlete, it's like my first dream was to be a dad. But I realized that after my 3rd year in the NFL, I was putting my family first, and my performance on Sundays were less than what I'm capable of doing because...
And they're paying you a lot of money to
right,
not
because
have
I'm
that
getting
happen.
up with the baby, and I'm like doing all the things that I feel like I should be doing, but I wasn't rested and I wasn't focused. And so, I had to shift gears and be like, babe, you're going to have to take on a little bit more of this so I can be my best. And she was like, no problem, I got this. She's the ultimate wife for a pro athlete because she will make sure that everything that I need up until game day I have, and I was able to play at a high level for 10 years.
I'm going to tell you, outside the NFL, we actually all face this. And we go through this, we justify it to ourselves if we're not paying attention to our kids by, hey, we're making money, we're providing for their futures. At some point in the future, we're not going to work as much and we're going to do that. And I think a lot of dads through the years, and now it's something that also moms face too, if they're out in the workforce, is when do you stop working that 60, 70, because, how many hours a week is an
NFL? How much money is enough?
And how much money is enough, and how much time, and at what point do you actually inwardly focus towards your children? These are dilemmas that everybody faces. It's kind of interesting to hear, it coming from an NFL player that you actually face the same things.
Yeah, I think life just in general is balance. You can actually spend too much time with your kids too.
Agreed. That's right.
You have to take time for yourself, and my wife is guilty of this. She spends too much time with the kids, and mentally it drains her, and she never takes time for herself just to go by herself, go get her nails done, go get a massage.
See, that's a really good point. So you think that having balance in your life made you a better father?
100%, because the times that I'm somewhere, I'm actually there. If I'm with my kids, I am with my kids. I'm not on my phone. I'm not on Instagram.
Right, because you're not doing it all the time. And this is true for any parent. If you do this too much.
When my wife spends too much time with the kids, she won't get down on the floor. And my wife is an amazing mother, but if you're with them all the time, you don't appreciate the little things, like the cute little things they say to you. Or the way
you're drained and you're worn. It's like anything else. Quality is more important than quantity.
Yeah.
And that's really, really what it's about in terms of parenting. I agree with that. How do you feel that being a father has changed you? What is the biggest change that's happened to you before you were a dad and now that you're a dad?
Well, I alluded to earlier, in order to be a professional athlete, you have to innately be selfish or you have to become selfish. Innately, I am very selfish. And that has benefited me in professional sports because, when I was 14, 15, 16 years old and I was building my body to be an elite athlete, that's all I could think about. So if it was nutrition or it was training or it was rest, if it wasn't about me, I wasn't doing it. And so maybe some of my relationships, and I know some of my relationships, with family members, with friends, I wasn't the friend or the person that I should have been, but I was able to reach an elite level. So it's kind of like building a business when you're a CEO. It's very difficult to do
Absolutely.
without missing time with your family. So becoming a father has helped me to kind of bring my character flaw of being selfish and bring it down. And I'm definitely not going to say that I'm selfless, but I found a happy medium of still being able to be, the fittest man in the NFL and still be a great dad. I feel very good about the dad that I am. There's still things that I'm not
We're
good
all
at.
improving. Look,
I'm not good at sitting down and reading to my kids because I can't sit still. But I'm really good at getting home, even if I'm tired, and being like, okay, let's play a board game. It's family night. It's, we're going to do karaoke.
So
on Friday.
my kids will tell you to this day, they'll come home. All of them came home for Thanksgiving, and they cooked for me. So this is what happens. This is what will eventually, hopefully, happen to you. Is they all came home. They're all in their 20s. They all came home. They shopped, cooked, cleaned, did everything. I sat there like the king of the house. I always joke it cost me $1 million in college tuition to get that Thanksgiving dinner. But I actually got it. But so they're always like, let's play a board game, and I'm like you. I cannot sit still. It's like one of the things that I refuse to do with them. I will not play a board game. I like to think that that's hopefully not the measure of being a dad, reading to them or playing board games. And I think what you're saying is being a dad teaches you to be generous of the heart. Mm-hmm. And I found for myself that I then started turning that outward. So I think you do charity work. Right, I'm sure you do, right?
I've got my own foundation work.
You've got your own foundation work, right? You're very involved in that, and that teaches you to do those things too. And I think that this is somehow maybe God's work, is that God gives you children to turn that selflessness out into being something, to selfishness into being more selfless. I really think there's something to that there.
Well, there's a lot of kids out there that I'm able to have contact with that don't have a father figure. Mm-hmm. Maybe the only man in their life is an uncle that they get to see twice a month. So, perfect example and something I'm very proud of, and I've been doing it for 7 years now, is before school starts, is, identifying a school that's underprivileged and then contacting the superintendent, and they give me the names of 25 to 30 kids they can't afford tennis shoes, okay. And so I'll take these kids shopping, but it's not just buying the shoes for them. The reason I'm doing it is not to give them shoes on their feet. Yeah. It's for me to be able to have 5 minutes with each kid, and what I do is I give them a piece of paper, and before I take them shoe shopping, they have to write down goals that they want to achieve short-term and long-term in their life. And during that 5 minutes when we're picking out new Jordans or new Nike Air Maxes or Adidas, I talk to them about their goals, and I help them to kind of readjust their goals. And one of them, one of their goals might be nicer to your brother. Well, you know what? That's a great goal, but how are you going to be nicer to your brother? How about we make this one of your goals? Do one thing nice for your brother that doesn't benefit you at all every day. One thing, whether it be like you're sitting on the couch, hey, can I get you a drink?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just teaching them a selfless service to their brother, and it gives me 5 minutes with each one of those kids. Now, granted, it takes me like 3 hours to buy 25 pairs of shoes, but each time that I get to spend 5 minutes with the kids, if I have 25 kids and I only reach 2 of them, that's life-changing.
That's right, absolutely. You know what I mean? And that experience they have with you, they'll remember the rest of their life.
It doesn't cost me that much money. It's called $100 a pair of shoes, $2,500 or $3,000. And
you
to
can
me,
change
that's a gift that will change their life.
Absolutely. I sometimes wonder, sort of back to the NFL, and you're talking about the players not really having the time. There's pressures on them not to be parents. I wonder, do you think that there's any changes the NFL itself as a league could make to actually facilitate that? It's tricky. I know there's money at stake. They need the players. They need the players to
the bottom line is the money. And, the NFL is almost... Well, I know they're trying to make changes to make the season even longer. So what they want to do is they have 4 preseason games. They want to trim that down to 2 preseason games and add 2 additional regular season games. So right now it's 4 preseason games and 16 regular season games. They want to change it to 2 preseason games and 18 regular season games to make more money
Money.
because more people are going to come to a regular season game, and it's dollars and cents. So they're definitely not. They're not thinking about not the families. They're not even thinking about the athlete's body. The season is already too long.
That's right, and the players are faster and stronger.
So
I'm sitting here in front. Take this the right way. I'm sitting here in front of a punter who you have the physical conditioning of the best athletes in the NFL from 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A running back might not have even been in your and you're in tip-top shape. So those players are they run fast, they hit hard.
I see some of those guys limp in on Monday after a hard game on Sunday. These giant 350-pound linemen limping in, and I know that I haven't ever felt the soreness that they feel, but they feel it every week. And so it's on Monday, they can barely walk into the facility, and then they're expected to practice on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then suit up again 6 days later.
Or sometimes on Thursday.
Yeah.
And
so it's I couldn't imagine it. So, a lot of people are like, oh, these guys make so much money, they're spoiled brats. I'll tell you what, those big kids, those big dudes that are limping on a Monday, they're earning it.
That's right.
And they're making 90% of their lifetime income in their 20s. And then once you leave the NFL, 99.99% of the people will make less money than they made in the NFL significantly.
That's right, and they have to plan for that. 4 kids, all under 10. I actually was
under 9.
All under 9, okay. All under 9. Tell me some of the things that you like to do with them. Really, I think the constructive things you like to do with them. You all put them in the car and you take them out to eat and stuff like that. But what's your favorite thing to do with your kids?
There's 2 things that have become a family tradition for us. And it started obviously when I was in the NFL because we play on Sundays traditionally, sometimes Monday nights. But Friday is like family fun night. So we usually play a board game and do karaoke. Or we do both. So
that wouldn't have worked in our family. We're all tone deaf, so
yeah. No, they're not good. Believe me. But it turns into a dance party. It starts off karaoke, and then it just turns into all the kids doing the whip dance and the Dougie and the Quan. So, but just something that we can turn off the TVs, we can put down the phones and the iPads, and literally just enjoy each other. That's one of my favorite traditions that we have. And then the other tradition that we have is at least once a month I try to take each kid out, just myself, kind of like a daddy date. And I've been very, very consistent with my daughters with that. I spend a lot of time with my son, not necessarily on a dad date, but I spend a lot of time with him just shooting baskets or throwing the football, or I'm taking him to basketball practice. So I spend a lot of time with him, and that's important because he's my only son. But with the daughters, I take them on a date once a month, and I put on a suit and a tie, open up the doors.
I love that technique.
And I want them to be, and the reason I do it is not to be cute or funny, but I want them to know how a man should treat them when the time comes for them to date. And so I'm giving whoever's about to date them, I'm leaving a big shadow and some big shoes to fill, because I don't want my daughters to seek the approval of other men. I shower them with compliments and love and holding the, I'm never on my phone when I'm there, because I don't want them to date a guy that takes them on a date. They're sitting at dinner and the guy's
I have to say, I just wrote an article. It was on the Good Men Project, and it talked about how, I've written 2 articles on how a dad's a role model for their daughters, but I wrote an article recently, and it talked about how I went to visit my daughter at college, and she was there with her boyfriend. And the thing that I noticed was he was treating her the same way that I treated her. Mm-hmm. He was doing things for her. Like, he was at a party, he wasn't drinking. He was the only boy at the party not drinking. He was watching over her. And I was sitting there sort of like half crying, half smiling, because, she's older now.
It make you feel good that she selected somebody.
Right. She didn't even necessarily do it consciously, but it just shows you that the technique that you're using, it's a conscious technique, is actually effective, because I did the same thing. I loved my daughters. Mm-hmm. I told them how beautiful they were. I gave them attention. I set the model, I like to think at least I did, I set the model for how men are supposed to treat them. So I'm just telling you that what you're doing now is actually...
It's good feedback I'm getting from you, because you've walked this road
I've
before.
walked the road, and I sat there, and it was just funny. I was at a party with there were 200 college kids in a
So you went to a college party.
Right, I was
Good
at a
for you, man.
I
Good for you,
surprised
Dad.
her.
I'm going to be that dad, too.
So I surprised her for her birthday. She was in Washington, D.C. I showed up at her birthday party as a surprise. Her boyfriend knew I was coming.
Right.
And I surprised her. I'm in this bar with college kids. I felt like the old man there, believe me. It was a little
You
bit.
were the old
I
man.
was the old man. I was double the age of everybody in there. But it was just miraculous to watch this young man with
That's
her
cool.
doing exactly that. He sat there. He didn't have a drink. He was the only one not drinking. She put her purse down because it was her birthday party there at the same, and he was watching her purse and he was watching over, and I can see he was walking and he was talking to me. It was just really very rewarding.
Yeah.
But then you have that moment, you realize that he's going to steal her from you, right?
But
You don't have to worry about
when
that
when you're there and you know that she's like so well taken care of, it makes giving your daughter away easier. Not easy, but easier knowing that she's going to be taken care of, and that is not a day that.
Right. Ultimately, we're teaching our children self-respect, and we get that from ourselves. Like you have
there's like daughters can only there's so many things that only a dad can give their daughter, and a lot of daughters don't have their father in there, and so I don't ever want my daughter to seek something from a man that she doesn't get from me first, and that's why I think there's so much teen pregnancy and things like that, because little boys that are 15, 16, 17 years old, they only want one thing. One thing is on their mind. And I was 15, 16, 17. I remember, and it was the girls that had lower self-confidence that would do things that they didn't
Agreed completely.
that they didn't want to do, but they wanted to make the guy happy.
Why don't we worry about the sons as much? I know I was not as worried about my son. Somehow you think, I guess, the sons are going to learn directly from you. In other words, what if you work hard, you train hard? Your son, is that the way you feel about it?
Well, if there's one thing that one character trait I could give my son, it's my relentless work ethic. And I think there's so many things that can be achieved in life through hard work. I know
Singing to the choir here.
tons and tons of incredibly talented, athletic, smart people who lack the work ethic to be able to take those gifts and make that a career. Whereas, I was athletic, but by comparison to other professional athletes, marginal athleticism, maximal work ethic. And I was able to last for 10 years, and I can still play now.
There's a lot of players, very well players. We sort of stick in the New York area. If you think of a hockey player, you think of Ken Danico.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a player
20 plus years, right?
20 years with the same team. And there's a player who was not gifted with any kind of great natural ability, but work ethic and working hard and, never giving up is
and a great guy, and it's made him successful after his career was over. And so, very similar to him, when I decided I'm done playing ball, I still take that work ethic and that vision that I have for myself and apply it in other industries, whether it's fitness or media.
Exactly.
TV.
It's this role model. It's the role model thing again. And you want to be a role model.
I want to give that to my son. I want him to set lofty goals, things that he thinks that are unreachable. And once you have the vision and you set a goal for yourself, then you have an operating strategy plan, and then it's work ethic after that. So, and I'm looking forward to going down that path with my son, because it's something that changed my life. I decided I wanted to do something when I was 14 years old. I was 108 pounds. I was undersized, and I wanted to compete at an elite level.
Yeah.
And so I went to the library, empowered myself with the knowledge, and then after I had that knowledge and that operating plan, at that point, it was time to develop.
Laser focus.
It was time to develop an elite work ethic, because I wanted to be an elite athlete, and I didn't have elite genetics.
I have a slogan that says, "How badly do you want it?" That's my personal slogan. How badly do you want it? If you want something badly enough, you can make it happen. You can't have everything in your life that you want, but you can have anything that you want. If you focus on something, you can have it. Two more things. I want to get back to a little bit of the fatherhood thing, and that's what goes on in this country with a lot of dads leaving, their teenagers, whatever, they have babies and then they run away. And it's my argument, and I want to know whether you agree with this, is I think that a lot of these young men run away from fatherhood because they see fatherhood as a bad thing. They see it as a responsibility with very little reward. And I think that you and I are living examples. I know, having 5 children, I didn't know it at the time, but having 5 children is the best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Completes you.
It completes you. It's forget the work. I ran a very successful company for many, many years. I have a lot of successful things in my personal life, but the fatherhood part is what's made me. It's what's made me as a man. My kids raised me. I like to say
Yeah,
that.
I mean, you build a business like Unique Photo, you sell it, and then what do you have to show for it? Like money, but does that make you happy?
No, it has nothing. And
It
so
doesn't
your
make you
legacy,
happy.
and when you're gone, all of that is meaningless. It's what your kids do when they go out in the world. And I think that, do you agree with the premise that if we could convince a lot of these young people that fatherhood is the best thing that can happen? I don't mean having a baby, having a child. I'm talking about being there and
There's
raising
a difference between having a child and being a
right.
father.
Dogs can have children. This is, any animal can have a child. But the point I'm making is that, do you agree that raising children is the most rewarding thing you can do in your life?
Yeah, because that is a piece of you, and when they're born, God is blessing you with a lump of clay, and you can form and shape that any way that you see fit.
That's your legacy.
And every day when you're showing the kid consistent, unconditional love, they're going to show the same thing back to you. Now, if you're abrasive with the kid and snippy and hateful, they're going to grow up in that, and they're going to think that's what they should do.
They model after you. But for me,
it's exhausting work. But there's
no better
nothing
reward
that you'll do that's ever going to complete you and give you more life fulfillment than watching your kid, like your children, and all of them are successful and well adjusted and happy. I pray that I have that. And it's not like you got lucky with one or two. You have 5 kids, and they're all very well adjusted. So when there's a man in my life, I'm very big on mentors. If there's somebody in my life who is good at something I'm passionate about doing, I'm going to pepper them with questions because that I want to learn that skill. You did something well that I'm passionate about doing, so I'd be crazy not to ask you questions. I did it in the NFL. I've done it in the fitness industry. And I've done it with my dad and my wife's father because she's a great woman and I want to raise great women. What did you do?
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that. I really, really do. And from what I see, I'm not that I want to claim to be an expert because everybody knows their kids better than somebody on the outside. But to me, it looks like you have all the right components to really have a successful outcome. One last thing. So if I'm gonna come back in 10 years from now, and you're gonna be doing your college search, by the way. So you're gonna be having fun with that, right? Start saving, by the way, whatever money you think
I've been saving for a long time.
You better start saving some more. What is Steve Weatherford gonna be doing?
I will be working in media, hopefully my own TV show with an emphasis on health and fitness, and not necessarily just exercising, but I want it to be a motivational, informational, nutritional fitness show. So I want people to wake up to my show, and I want to help start their day on a positive note, giving someone just something to work on in their life to make them better. If my TV show can help the people that watch it be 1% better every day.
Well, I'm going to watch it because I have a little.
To me,
I have a little bit of a middle-aged gut there.
I get so much life fulfillment from giving people a plan and the motivation to follow through on that plan, and them calling me in 3 or 4 months and being like, "You changed my life." To me, aside from my children, nothing gives me more life fulfillment than knowing that I helped somebody live a happier, healthier life, and so that's what I hope to be doing. So. I'm working in TV now, and I'm working in fitness now, and then eventually I want to marry them together, and that's my TV.
Yeah, I have to be your, I'm going to come on to the show, and I'm going to be like your special case. You're going to take this lump, and you're going to mold it.
So over the next 2 or 3 years, just get really fat, and then
that's
it'll be our before.
I don't
and
know,
after.
much fatter than I am right now. I don't know if I can really. So okay, last question. I have to ask this. So in 10 years, right? I'm going to follow on the same thing. So your son's going to be 18. So do you want him to play football? So I guess this is the question. Do you want him to go to Ohio State and play Division I football, or do you want him to go to Harvard? What's the choice?
Harvard, 100%.
There you go.
I don't. I'm not going to let my son play football until he's 16 years old because I want his body to be developed. And he can play flag football, but he's not bashing his head into another kid's head when he's 8 years old.
No concussions at an early age.
He's dying to play, but I played long enough to see football claim the lives of 2 of my very, very close friends. One was Junior Seau, and another one was in college, a college teammate. And
I'm
and
sorry
it's just,
about that. It's tough.
yeah, you know, I mean, but the reason that they passed away at a young age is because they gave everything to the game, and I respect that commitment. But shortening your life by 2/3, dying before you're
Yes, I know.
40 years old or 32 years old, in the other case, my college teammate, it, to me, is just not worth the love of the game. And there's just so many fun sports out there that you can play. And both of those guys that passed away started playing football when they were
young.
6 years old. So if I can save my son, if he is adamant at 16 to play football, at minimum, at least I'm going to save him 10 years of hits in the head.
See, to me, in conclusion, that's the example of the loving modern father, is that you put your own potential vicarious experience that you can have through your son, because having your son play football is pretty cool for a dad.
Yeah.
You're willing to put that aside because you love
I
him
have
so
no
much.
ego when it comes to that.
And you can't have an ego when it
If you
comes
would
to
have asked me
children.
that 5 years ago or not, 6 years ago, I'd been like, oh, I'd love my son to play football. It'd be so cool. But now I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and these things have happened to my friends that have been so close to me. And learning more about my own body and how it feels now when I'm 32 versus when I was 22, you got to take care of your body. And it's a rough game. And by the time my son is 18, the athletes are going to be even that
Faster
much
and
bigger
stronger,
and
that's
even
right.
that much stronger, and the game is going to be more violent. So I don't want that.